the 28th, 1947 without a number, and another document submitted in 1948, number 2249 of the 1st of November 1947, 2710A of the 2nd of March 1948, and 2208C. And all these documents had been read by me rather superficially due to lack of time at my disposal. And I remember these interrogations only very vaguely, but as it is to be inferred from these protocols, I knew those things only by hearsay, and they were actually reported to me only during my captivity.
President of Court, apparently all of these statements were submitted. We have a volume, I understand this is Exhibit T69, which includes each and every one of these statements, which were shown to Becher now. But of course we can check that. Mr. Hausner, may I remark here that there are two volumes. There is T689 and T690.
But those dealt with here were in document 689.
That was Judge Ravet, the latest statement. President of Court, if anything is still missing, sir, you may of course submit it later on. Dr. Savatius.
I thank the court, and I shall submit them afterwards if need be.
Auf Seite 22 die Frage 43. Aus welchen Gründen beschwerten Sie sich bei Himmler über Eichmann und worin bestand Eichmanns Sabotage Ihrer Tätigkeit? Antwort: Das Entgegenwirken Eichmanns gegen meine Maßnahmen war nicht immer klar erkennbar. Ich überspringe einen Satz. An Einzelheiten kann ich mich aber nicht mehr erinnern.
On page 22nd, question 43. For what reasons did you actually complain to Himmler against Eichmann and his activities? And then what was the nature of the sabotage of your work carried out by Eichmann? Not always is it possible to see clearly the countermeasures taken by Eichmann with regard to my activities, but I cannot remember clearly the details.
Auf Seite 24 vor der Frage 44, was die praktische Zusammenarbeit zwischen Kaltenbrunner, Eichmann und Gruppenführer Müller Eichmann betraf, ist nach meiner heutigen Erinnerung mein Eindruck, dass in manchen Fällen Eichmann direkt mit Kaltenbrunner zusammengearbeitet hat. Dass aber hauptsächlich die Zusammenarbeit zwischen Eichmann und Müller gelegen hat. Ich kann dafür, dass Eichmann und Kaltenbrunner unmittelbar in manchen Fällen zusammenarbeiteten, kein Beispiel angeben.
And furthermore, it is stated on page 24 in the last passage of question 43 with regard to the practical cooperation between Kaltenbrunner, Eichmann and Müller. It is stated so far as this cooperation between Kaltenbrunner, Eichmann and Gruppenführer Müller is concerned, as far as I can see, very often, according to what I remember, I have the impression that in certain cases Eichmann was dealing with Kaltenbrunner directly without any intermediary. And this cooperation, but particularly there was a cooperation between Eichmann and Miller. But I cannot give any examples in support of this statement of mine. I then say I cannot give any corroborative examples of direct cooperation of Eichmann with Kaltenbrunner without Miller's intermediary.
Wann schlugen Sie Himmler vor, die Judendeportation einzustellen? Antwort: Ich kann nicht mehr sagen, wann ich erstmalig Himmler vorgeschlagen habe, die Deportation einzustellen. Ich meine, dass ich diesen Vorschlag mit Nachdruck bereits im Juni 1944 gemacht habe.
On page 26, the following is the answer to question 46. When did you suggest to Himmler to put an end to deportations of Jews? I do not remember the exact date when I proposed to Hitler to put an end to deportations of Jews. I believe that I made this proposal already in June 1944.
Auf Seite 31, letzte Frage. Ist Ihnen bekannt, ob der Angeklagte den Befehl Himmlers, Deportationen einzustellen, zuwidergehandelt hat? Antwort: Ich kann mich heute nicht mehr erinnern, ob mir damals solche Fälle bekannt geworden sind.
On page 31, last question, do you know whether the accused was acting contrary to Himmler's orders to put a stop to deportations of Jews? Answer: I do not remember today whether such cases were reported to me. This is the end of the protocol and the end of the passage that I wanted to quote.
Mr. Hausner, Your Honor, I have marked a few passages, including some of these which the defense has already noted, and these I would like the official interpreters to skip when they are reading the marked passages, because there's no sense in repeating them.
Kurt Andreas Ernst Becher.
It says here at the beginning, my name is Kurt Andreas Ernst Becher. I am 51 years old. I am merchant by profession, resident in Bremen, Schwachhauser Heerstraße 189, SCHWACHHAUSER, HEERSTRASSE 189. Page 9, in reply to 14, part of which has already been read by the defense. According to upon my proposal, Himmler agreed for a custodianship agreement and agreed to put me and Obersturmbannführer Obermann into the Weiss enterprise. Mr. Hausner, the defense read the first part of the reply to this question 14, and this is the remaining part. The name of the second Obersturmbannführer is Bobermin, B-O-B-E-R-M-I-N. Now, in reply to question 21, it's on page 12. Did the accused Adolf Eichmann formulate his proposals in a laxer form than Himmler did with regard to the implementation of this operation at the time when you spoke with him? Reply: the proposals made by the accused were not known to me in detail and in their entirety. When Dr. Billitz pressed me and I applied for an interview with Himmler, an interview which I eventually obtained through the good offices of Winkelmann. I had heard from Dr. Bilitz about a proposal to release Jewish males in exchange for lorries. Himmler did not express any view about as to whether he had known this proposal and who was the source of this proposal. However, Himmler told me, and I remember it almost verbatim, get out of the Jews whatever you can, promise whatever they request. As to what we are going to keep of these promises, we shall see about that. I objected to this and said explicitly that any and all agreements reached with the Jews must be kept under all circumstances. I still remember that eventually Himmler set the sum at $1,000 as a quota for settling the accounts, as a tariff for each account. I also remember that at the time mention was made of various sums, of differing sums, and it is quite reasonable that Dr. Kastner knew more about the details than I did. Now on page 16, question number 29. Did you have general conversations with the accused about the solution of the Jewish problem in Hungary, and what was the position of the accused? Reply: I guarded very much against having general conversations with Eichmann about the Jewish problem. The position of the accused was well known to me from various declarations which he made and various measures which he instituted. Eichmann was a convinced National Socialist and a fanatic anti-Semite. And now on page 21, it is question 42. How did it come about that there took place the conversation in Triberg in December 1944 between Himmler and Eichmann in your presence? Reply: I had expressed my complaints and anxiety about the fact that, in my view, Eichmann had repeatedly tried to circumvent the instructions issued by Himmler. I requested Himmler to summon Eichmann in order to inform him in person about his intentions. I had told Eichmann, I had told Himmler that Eichmann simply was not taking his instructions seriously and was implementing them only then when they were reconfirmed by Gruppenführer Müller explicitly. I told Himmler that Eichmann himself had confirmed this to me, and thereupon Himmler summoned Eichmann and me together. In these personal conversations, I told Himmler about my impression that Eichmann was seeking support from Müller and Kaltenbrunner, and that I was not certain whether indeed Eichmann would eventually comply with instructions and orders from Himmler. I remember that I recommended to Himmler that he try to convince Eichmann of his way of thinking at that time. that he do this in person. As far as I recall, I also recommended to Himmler on that occasion that he confer a military decoration on Eichmann, because I had the impression that Eichmann would welcome such a gesture on part of Himmler. The conversation between Himmler, Eichmann and myself took place, to the best of my recollection, in the command car which Himmler had in the Schwarzwald near Triberg. Himmler spoke with Eichmann, I might say, alternately in soft and harsh terms. I remember how Himmler put it when he screamed at Eichmann. It was more or less like this. He told him, if until now you had been exterminating Jews, so now when I order, you must now become a person who deals with Jews very considerately. May I remind you that it was not Gruppenführer Müller or you, but it was myself who founded the Reichssicherheitshauptamt in 1933, and that I am the one who gives orders. If you cannot comply, you must tell me. And there follows and informed most confidentially to request another 50,000 Jews later on, after this foot march is successfully completed, in order to obtain thereby the final objective, which is the purging of the entire territory of Hungary of its Jews. And all of this will nevertheless proceed under the principles agreed on initially.
Dass Sie Verhandlungen mit der Regierung geführt hätten über diesen Abtransport von 50.000 Fußrecht.
Mr. Witness, my question is it correct what Wesenmeyer reports here, that you had negotiated with the Hungarian government about the deportation of these 50,000 people who were to go on a foot march?
Des Dokumentes 525.1234 habe ich den Befehl bekommen, diese Verhandlungen in Ungarn durchzuführen.
Yes, in accordance with the contents of the document T1243, original number 525, I gave the instruction to implement these orders in consultation and cooperation with the Hungarian government.
Dazu im Einzelnen zu sagen.
But I should like to point out in this connection as follows.
Der Inhalt des Dokumentes ergibt, dass Winkelmann als höherer SS- und Polizeiführer zweifelsfrei an den Chef der Sicherheitspolizei und des SD herangetreten ist, mich, der ich mich gerade eben in Berlin befand, wieder zurück zu beordern, und dass in Ungarn die Idee mit dem Fußtreck aufgekommen sein muss, und dass ferner es sich hier lediglich um arbeitsfähige männliche Juden handeln sollte, die für diese militärischen Aufgaben, die von anderen Stellen als notwendig erachtet wurden, eingesetzt werden sollten.
It is to be inferred from the contents of the document that Wilhelm, the superior officer of security police and SD, applied to his superiors in Berlin and requested to transfer me, who was at that moment in Berlin. The idea was to harness in this work only Jews who were fit for work within the framework of war efforts.
Ebenso zweifellos auch durchgeführt, sodass die in dem Dokument 212, TAF 1235 genannten Angelegenheiten im Wesentlichen richtig sein dürften.
And
after I had received such orders, it is quite obvious beyond any shadow of doubt that I had implemented it. So the document 1125, original number 522, is correct.
Punkt Arabisch 4 genannten Einzelheiten. Das Einsatzkommando Eichmann wird abgesehen von teilweiser Übernahme Bewachung erwähnten Fußtrecks bei Durchführung Aktion Budapest nur beratend mitwirken, während Aktion im Übrigen von ungarischer Gendarmerie unter Leitung bisherigen Beauftragten für Judenfragen, Oberstleutnant Ferenci und Oberleitung Staatssekretärs im Innenministerium Larey durchgeführt werden soll.
In paragraph number 4 it is clearly stated that Eichmann's operation group, apart from receiving the supervision tasks of a partial nature, will be there only in its consultative capacity so far as the implementation of the order is concerned, whilst the operation will be actually directed by the Hungarian police, Oberstleutnant Ferenci, and the Hungarian Gendarmerie, and they are to be subordinated to State Secretary Radai from the Ministry of the Interior.
Arabisch 5, da möchte ich sagen, das kann ich heute nicht mit Sicherheit behaupten. Ist das so gewesen, dass ich weitere 50.000 Juden angefordert habe oder nicht? Ich möchte es fast bestreiten, aus dem ganz einfachen Grund, weil in dem ursprünglichen Dokument von einem diesbezüglichen Befehl nicht die Rede ist und etwas, wozu ich nicht befohlen war, habe ich nicht gemacht.
So far as point 5 is concerned, I can't say beyond any shadow of doubt whether I did plan to send another 50,000 Jews or not. I have to doubt the veracity of this document because it infers clearly from the documents that no such order had been issued, and I never acted unless I've received relevant orders.
Hat es die Staatsanwalt Nummer 871, gibt weiterhin Aufklärung.
There is an additional document which is here in front of me. The original number of it is 17106 number, and this gives additional clarification. I'm sure Dr. Savatsius is going to submit this document.
President of the court, the last remark was by the President of the court. I'm sure Dr. Savatsius will submit this document. And now, Dr. Savatsius, yes, here is the document. Its original number is 871. I am submitting it hereby. President of court, this will be exhibit N89.
We can proceed, says President of court, to the accused.
Ich sagte aus, dass zweifellos auf Antrag des höheren SS- und Polizeiführers Winkelmann gemäß der Urkunde TAF 1234 die Angelegenheit in Ungarn in der Zwischenzeit, als ich in Berlin war, behandelt werden musste.
I testified already that the matter had been discussed during my absence in Hungary on the initiative of the superior SD officer Winkelmann.
Oktober 1944. Die Urkunde 871, nun 89, stammt vom 24. Oktober, 6 Tage später. Und sie sagt, in sein Schreiben Fesemeyer an Ribbentrop, teile ich mit, dass ich gestern auf die dringende wiederholte Bitte von SA-Obergruppenführer Winkelmann Salaschi gebeten habe, uns wenigstens 25.000 Arbeitsjuden leihweise für ein halbes Jahr für die Verwendung im deutschen Jägerprogramm zur Verfügung zu stellen. SA-Obergruppenführer Winkelmann hat an sich die Forderung auf 50.000 Arbeitsjuden erhoben, doch ist diese bisher am Widerstand der ungarischen Regierungsstellen gescheitert. Das Dokument besagt,
here it is stated in paragraph number 1, this was dated of the 18th of October 1944, whilst N89, original number 871, was dated the 24th of October, that means to say 6 days later. This is a cable by Wesenmeyer to Ribbentrop. He says, I should like to inform you that yesterday I asked Salashi, in the light of an urgent request of Obergruppenführer Winkelmann, to give us at least 25,000 Jews fit for labor on loan for 6 months, so that they can be used within the Jaeger plan of production of pursuit planes. Winkelmann actually asked for 50,000 Jews fit for work, but this request had stumbled upon stern objections voiced on the part of Hungarian authorities.
Dieses von Wesenmeyer gebrauchte Formulierung wiederholte Bitte beweist die Richtigkeit meiner Meinung. Der zweite Teil dieses Schreibens, nun 89, stellt fest, dass ich mit meinen Verhandlungen, zu der ich befohlen war, mit dem ungarischen Innenminister offenbar zu keinem Erfolg geführt hat, denn Wesenmeyer schreibt hier, ich hielt es für richtig, zunächst eine Teilforderung zu realisieren, mit der Absicht, gegebenenfalls später erneut unsere Wünsche vorzubringen. Salashi hat sofort dieser Bitte entsprochen, hat lediglich darauf hingewiesen, dass Ungarn selbst das Gros der Juden für Schanzarbeiten und andere vordringliche Aufgaben benötigt und hat mich gebeten, die weiteren Behandlung der Angelegenheit zwischen Obergruppenführer Winkelmann und Minister Kovacs in die Wege zu leiten.
The reiterated demand sent to Wesenmeyer corroborate, in my opinion, the veracity of my statement. In item B of this document, we could see quite clearly that the negotiations which I was ordered to carry on with the Hungarian Minister of the Interior yielded no success at all. They actually failed altogether. Wesenmeyer says that I deemed it appropriate to secure at least partial arrangement and so far as the 50,000 Jews were concerned. Sarasi immediately responded to the request in question, but he pointed out that most of the Jews are required itself for work connected with fortification plan and other activities, and he requested me to initiate additional negotiations between Winkelfeld and Minister Kovacs in this respect.
Ursprünglich bestandene Absicht, diese marschfähigen männlichen Juden durch Mitwirkung von Angehörigen der Sicherheitspolizei des SD, Übernahme der Bewachung erwähnten Fußträgs zur Durchführung zu bringen, sind bei diesen Verhandlungen Winkelmann mit Minister Kovacs zweifellos gescheitert, der auf die Forderung Ungarns gedrungen haben wird, dass die Transporte ausschließlich von ungarischen Kräften zu bewachen und zu begleiten sind. Dieses beweist der Bericht von Dr. Leopold Breslauer, der diese Transporte ja mehrere Tage im Auftrage von 4 in Ungarn akkreditierten Gesandten zu beobachten gehabt hat und darüber hier als Zeuge ausgesagt hat und im Bericht seine Erfahrungen niedergeschlagen hat.
The original intention was to transfer these Jewish men fit for march, who were to be escorted by SD men. This intention had not been mentioned in the negotiations between Winkelmann and Kovac. Kovac apparently insisted on the fact that the escort is to be carried out solely by the Hungarian security forces. This is furthermore corroborated by a report drawn by Dr. Leopold Breslauer, who was an observer on the part of 4 legations and was watching the state of affairs most thoroughly and furnished a clear report on it and also testified in this court.
Dieser Angelegenheit war und zum Zweiten an den nun dann tatsächlich stattgefundenen Fußmärschen keinen Anteil gehabt habe.
To wind up, let me point out, with court's permission, that the following conclusions are to be drawn. First of all, I was not the one who initiated the foot march, and secondly, so far as the foot march was concerned, I had no part in it and no share in its organization, supervision, or otherwise.
President of Court, please, Dr. Savatius, carry on with your questioning now.
Ich bitte als nächstes Dokument an Urkunde 306.
As officer of the 2nd Battalion of the Jewish Brigade, is that correct?
It is correct.
Where were you stationed?
I was stationed along the Austrian-Yugoslav border, the Austrian-Yugoslav-Italian border, really.
Apart from your military functions in the battalions, you were entrusted with some other task, I understand. What was it?
Mr. Yehuda Arazi, the late Yehuda Arazi, who had come on behalf of the Aliyah Bet, the illegal immigration organization, assigned me the task of centralizing the work of searching for Jews all over Europe, if any survivors are to be found, and of bringing them to this country.
What were your first activities?
The first activity was to organize some kind of a framework, an official, externally, formally an official framework, because we were a military unit after all, and I therefore applied to the brigadier, the commander of the brigade, and he gave me an official appointment as some kind of a committee to deal with a search of relatives of soldiers in the brigade. By this document, I could travel to Germany and to other places and to search for people.
Did you go personally for the searching of Jews?
I never ceased doing that for months from the date I received the appointment.
What places did you visit?
I at least scores of camps. The bigger ones were Dachau, Mauthausen, Grosenstadt, Bergen-Belsen, and scores of other camps in Germany, in Austria, Czechoslovakia, Italy, France, all over Europe where these people were.
You're working as an officer of the 8th British camp.
Yes, the 8th British Army. The uniform was of the brigade, which was part of Montgomery's 8th Army, officially. At first, of course, we went to look for our own relatives, but as soon as we encountered the signs of the Holocaust, we could no longer confine this to our official framework, and the entire brigade went out for this task without much regard to the formal framework.
What did you find in those camps? What did you see yourself with your own eyes?
I believe that if I try to exhaust in a few sentences what I saw, I would say that we found a horde of living people who, from a psychological point of view, was no longer much different from those bodies, the dead bodies, whom we found with amputated limbs and even amputated heads, decapitated bodies. From a bodily point of view, everything was done, especially in the first period, to restore them to their feet. To the extent that this was possible, I think, unless I'm wrong, in Bergen-Belsen 52,000 people were found, and 27,000 of them died in the course of medical treatment. Yes, 27,000 people died after liberation in the course of this medical treatment, which was administered in an attempt to restore, to revive a spark of life in them.
What did they die of?
If their weight was 30-odd kilograms, they had no contact with life anymore. They had no strength, no will to survive left in them, no resistance. They looked like, if I can make a comparison to any war horrors, like forests where only amputated trunks remained standing. Thus each and every one was with amputated limbs. I mean symbolically, his children were taken, his wife was taken. All that remained was an amputated trunk, a severed trunk, bleeding and wounding, and these wounds were only reopened really after the liberation and were bleeding. He could not forget this, and his internal life hardly made it possible for him to find any contact with others.
Could you describe your first encounter with the inmates where you were?
The first meeting took place in one of the camps. I believe it was the first camp I visited, a refugee camp. Maybe as an example, I should say a few words for clarification. All over Europe, Europe was dotted with these camps, which included about 8 million of these DPs, displaced persons. They had about 10 to 12 categories of these people. All of them were defined in one document, which was called the Administrative Memorandum number 39 of July 1944, and that stated what the ways of treatment should be for all of those found in the camps in Germany. Among those 8 million, there were people of all nations and of all types, and the Allied armies saw it as their primary task to restore these people as quickly as possible to their homes. At days and nights, swarms, convoys of these people moved in all means of transport, trains, planes, on foot, in bullock carts, whatever they could find. From the occupied territories, they streamed homewards. Of course, in those camps, we were looking for the Jews. The truck would remain in the huge area of the camp, many square kilometers. We had a little pennant the size of a palm, and when I had a few moments left to go to the office of the camp to ask for any Jewish survivors, I would find the truck surrounded with a multitude, which to this day I find it difficult to forget. One could call these people human beings. They looked like creatures, but they were not human beings. At first I thought maybe there was some kind of a fight between these soldiers who were guarding the truck and the multitude.
What camp was it, asked the President of Court?
It was the first camp in Freimannplatz Kaserne, Freimannplatz Garrison. When I approached, I saw that these hundreds of people were fighting among themselves with a few ounces of strength left in order to get as close as possible to the soldier who was in the middle and to touch with their hands the Jewish Star of David, which was the insignia of the Jewish fighting brigade. And of course these 4 soldiers could not come in contact with all these hundreds of people who surrounded them. And there were among the soldiers among the refugees who kissed the Star of David that was drawn on, that was painted on the military truck. And those who could not come approach either the soldier or the truck crawled on the ground and embraced the feet of the soldiers and kissed their boots.
They were Jews.
Yes, these were Jews.
Between various authorities.
Sie hätten Ihren Dienst mit der erforderlichen Härte durchgeführt. Wie kommt es zu dieser Bemerkung?
And it goes on saying in this recommendation that you have implemented and fulfilled your duty with the necessary hardness. How does this remark come to be here?
Persönliche Härte oder erforderliche Härte war jene Zeit ein Schlagwort, das verlangt wurde zu beantworten in Beförderungsvorschlägen. Ich darf auf das Dokument 733 hinweisen, Staatsanwalt Nummer 733. Da findet man auf der Seite 2 unter Punkt Arabisch 4 vorgedruckt Willenskraft und persönliche Härte. Das musste bejaht werden. Wurde es nicht bejaht, dann fiel der Beförderungsvorschlag unter den Tisch. Und ob nun die persönliche Härte vorhanden persönliche Härte oder erforderliche Härte war jene Zeit ein Schlagwort, das verlangt wurde zu beantworten in Beförderungsvorschlägen. Ich darf auf das Dokument 733 hinweisen, Staatsanwalt Nummer 733. Da findet man auf der Seite 2 unter Punkt Arabisch 4 vorgedruckt Willenskraft und persönliche Härte. Das musste bejaht werden. Wurde es nicht bejaht, dann fiel der Beförderungsvorschlag unter den Tisch. Und ob nun die persönliche Härte vorhanden war oder nicht, bei Beförderungen wurde es auf alle Fälle bejaht. Es handelt sich in dem gegenständlichen Fall auch um einen Beförderungsvorschlag eines mir seinerzeit nachgeordneten Mannes, und auch hier musste ich in dieser vorgeschriebenen Rubrik vorhanden reinschreiben, oder wie Streckenbach das hier in dem Dokument 27 machte, er hielt sich nicht an dieses vorgedruckte Formular, sondern hat eben hier diese Sache von sich aus abdiktiert. Vielleicht ist es auch eine Niederschrift aus einem solchen vorgedruckten Formular. Es entzieht sich meiner Kenntnis.
Personal toughness, as it were, the toughness which was required, was actually an inevitable slogan, and this was always attached in every recommendation for promotion in rank. In the document presented by the Attorney General, we see on page 2, in the paragraph number 4, that the strength of will and personal toughness is an imperative feature to be expected of an SS man. Therefore, anyone who was recommending the promotion rank of anybody concerned had to say yes to that particular question, whether there was personal toughness or not. If this was not stated that the man was tough, then the recommendation for promotion promotion would be shelved. This was actually routine in all recommendations for the promotion in rank. And I had to do the same. If I wanted to recommend someone for promotion, then I would also have to say yes to that particular question. I had to record that the man had evinced particular hardness and toughness. And so far as Streckenbach is concerned, he simply copied one of those rules that had always been customary. I think he based himself on the accepted and customary document. I should like Dr. Svatsius to follow the numbers as
it bears the markings 4B4. It is sent in connection with a deportation operation from Minsk. It is dated 21st of May 1942.
Oben heißt es folgendermaßen: die im Osten noch vorhandenen Aufnahmemöglichkeiten für eine weitere Evakuierung restlos ausnutzen zu können, bitte ich, die Zahl jener im dortigen Dienststellenbereich bisher verbliebenen Juden anzugeben, die unter genauester Beachtung der Richtlinie noch evakuiert werden können.
On page 2, in the second paragraph, it says as follows: in order to be able to utilize without any remnants the still existing capacity for absorption for the purpose of future evacuations, I hereby request to be informed of the number of those Jews who have still remained behind in the sphere of competence of the local offices, and this is with regard to those Jews who may still be evacuated by virtue of a strict observance of the directives.
Sind Sie für dieses Drängen auf Steigerung der Evakuierung hier verantwortlich?
Are you responsible for this egging on, for this demand to speed up the process?
Und man hat den Beweis auch in anderen Dokumenten für das, was ich jetzt sagen werde. Nach Stalingrad ist ein bedeutendes Anstrengen seitens der Reichsführungsorgane zu bemerken, die Deportierung mit allen Mitteln zu forcieren. Und ich nehme an, dass das ein Mittel der Reichsführung war zur Ablenkung. Das Dokument selber zeigt, dass ich eine Deportierung nicht anordnen konnte und ich konnte es auch nicht abstellen. Dies hatten meine Vorgesetzten gemacht.
No, it is worth mentioning that there is a date of the 21st of January 1942, and this proves the point quite clearly. And another proof will also be is to be found in other documents, the proof of what I'm going to say now. After Stalingrad, considerable efforts were deployed by the Reichs authorities to quicken the pace of deportations, and this was the means taken by the leading authorities of the Reich for camouflage reasons. I had no possibility either to slow down or to accelerate the pace of the deportations, because this was within the concern, this was the concern of my superiors.
President of Court, what was the meaning of the expression deception, diversion used by the accused?
Das Politikum, möchte ich mal sagen, zum Ausdruck gebracht haben, das offensichtlich besonders seitens der Reichspropagandazentralen notwendig erschien, um das Desaster Stalingrad, um das Volk, die Öffentlichkeit von dem Desaster Stalingrad allmählich abzulenken. Und da ist sicherlich zu dem alten Mittel zurückgegriffen worden, dass irgendein Schuldiger gesucht werden muss, wenngleich in diesem Falle zwar der Schuldige nicht offensichtlich ausgesprochen wurde, aber alleine durch die Bewegung, durch die Tatsachen, dass das Reich Deportationen befahl, war es mit ein willkommener Anlass für das Reichspropagandaministerium, hier diese Sachen forciert vorzutreiben. Und die zentralen Reichsstellen haben um jene Zeit nicht nur in Deutschland, sondern auch im Ausland, in Sonderheit Frankreich, die entsprechenden Befehle erteilt und ergehen lassen.
What was the date of Stalingrad?
Your Honor, I should like to explain the matter in the following manner. If we have to shed light on the political aspect of the problem, this was actually a means used for propaganda purposes of the Reich, and this was actually, as it were, a red herring drawn across the trail of the Stalingrad disaster. And in order to divert public opinion from Stalingrad disaster, as I said, it was necessary for the leading authority to stick to this red herring system and to find the scapegoat. And even if the name of the scapegoat was not expressly stated, this was actually shown to the public by the fact that the Reich ordered large-scale deportations, and the propaganda ministry of the Reich thus planned to show the public that the intention is to continue these deportation operations on a large scale. This was not only implemented by the authorities in Germany, but also in other countries next to Germany, such as France, for example.
Es muss sich aber Februar, März 1942 handeln.
I do not know at the moment the exact date thereof, but it should be conjectured that this was actually February or March 1942.
Judge Halevi, are you not mistaken with regard to the year? Was it not in a different year, 1 year later?
43? Dann habe ich mich dann ist im 43er Jahr hatten wir auch eine Forcierung der Deportationen, und diese zweite Forcierung habe ich eben verwechselt mit dieser ersten Forcierung.
Yes, also in 1943 we had this phenomenon of forced and strengthened deportation, and I actually confused the two operations.
Spitzen. Einmal diese hier im Spätfrühjahr 1942, die zweite nach dem Tode Heydrichs und die dritte nach Stalingrad.
We had actually three peak periods, so to speak. The first in 1942, the second after the assassination of Heydrich, and the third after the fall of Stalingrad. And I confused the second peak period with the previous one.
Dr. Rave, in this case you did not really reply to the question of the defense counsel, to the previous question.
Verzeihen Sie, darf ich noch mal fragen?
May I have this question repeated?
Die Frage war, ob Sie selbst oder Ihre Dienststelle diese Evakuierungen angeordnet haben. Ob Sie es selbst konnten, weil Ihr Aktenzeichen auf dem Schreiben steht.
Nein.
Oder ob Sie Müller veranlasst haben, dass Sie also die Triebfeder dieser ganzen Angelegenheit waren.
Dr. Savartsius, the question was whether you or your unit had given orders for this speeding up, as would be logical to conclude from the fact that the letters of your department appear in the marking on top of the letter.
I was not the moving spirit of it, nor did I initiate it in any way.
Meines damaligen Amtschefs, und ich darf mich hier beziehen auf seinen damaligen oder späteren Vertreter, Amtsvertreter Hubenkoten, der mit mir und mit uns allen der gleichen Meinung war, dass Müller sich gerade in Dinge selbst geringster Bedeutung persönlich einmengte und persönlich befahl und keine eigenen Touren duldete.
This runs counter to the very essence of the nature of my office, and even the deputy who came later, namely Hubenkotten, and other people were of the same opinion with me that Miller didn't brook any independence of any kind and interfered in anything that was being done.
Ich übergehe zwei Dokumente, die vorgesehen waren, und komme zu TAF 718, Urkunde 1285.
Informs the Vienna community and the Palestine office in Vienna that he had not been authorized to criticize these authorities with regard to the methods by which they are implementing the immigration policy.
Ziffer 4 dieser selben Aktnotiz.
Dr. Savatius, I now make reference to section 4 of the same memorandum.
Eichmann erklärte sich bereit, die Gebeine Herzls zur Überführung nach Palästina freizugeben.
שם נאמר, SS Hauptsturmführer Eichmann הביע נכונותו.
It says there, SS Hauptsturmführer Eichmann expressed his willingness to transfer the remains of Theodor Herzl to Palestine.
Wollen Sie mal erklären, wie es dazu gekommen ist und was für Bedingungen daran geknüpft wurden, was da für eine Gegenleistung gefordert wurde, was zu zahlen war? Wenn Sie sich dazu erklären wollen.
Mr. Witness, would you care to comment how